Welcome to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, and this is another snippet of wisdom where I select my favorite, most insightful moments from previous episodes. Today I have selected for you a snippet from my conversation with Dave Albin, who has worked with Tony Robbins for almost 20 years as his firewalk captain. I asked him, "So Dave, you have worked with Tony Robbins for all these years. Tell me some of the most important things you've learned by being in his proximity for so long." His answer is insightful. Let's dive right in.
Oh God, I'm laughing because it's like, you spend that kind of time with a man for almost 20 years, right? Just a little shy of 2 decades, and you're going to learn some stuff. The first one that comes to mind, I think, state management. It really comes down to managing your state. So if we start with state management, managing your state every day. Right. And that can come from consistency and having rituals, and you get up every morning and you do this and then you do that. And and then you just create this beautiful life in and around those consistencies. Doesn't mean you're not going to have problems. It just means how I show up to that problem. Right. It's like Tony used to say, he said, listen, we're all going to have problems. But if you maintain a good attitude and you earn money and you do all that, at least you can arrive at your problems in style. Right. And then I think the other part of that is, I learned early on, why don't people get what they want in life? And they don't get what they want in life because there's a story they tell themselves of why they can't have it. So in America, Henry Ford, who developed the automobile, the Ford Motor Company, I love what he said. He said, if you think you can or you think you can't, guess what? You're right. So you got to be very, very careful what you tell yourself every day. Tony also teaches proximity. You are who you spend time with. And he says, love your family, choose your friends. And you better choose wisely because you will become who you spend time with. For me, back in the day when I was, drinking and drugging, I was hanging around pimps and prostitutes and drug dealers and drug addicts and mean, nasty people that, they will hurt you. They will kill you. You can die in the streets out there. And so, but that was my peer group. And then the next thing you know, boom, I'm over here with a bunch of people in AA. So I immediately, because they told me early on, look, you got to change your play places, play things, and play friends. And so again, Tony's, in and around all his teachings. And the other kind of a thing that he kind of taught me that led me to understand that it's kind of a generational thing, right? Cardone talks about this. Gary Vee talks about this. Wayne Dyer talked about this. If you go back in your ancestry, if you go back 12 generations, right, that's 4,094 people that got you to here. Right now, you and I communicating. And those 4,094 people went through all of life, the pain, the suffering, the love. 4,094 people were spread out all over this world. Well, without all 4,094 of them for you and for me, we're not having this conversation. So from my perspective, again, it goes back to what I said earlier. The most important time I was born was it. And then when I figured out why, I remember Tony talking about one time, he said, all humans have two lives, IG. And the second one starts when we realize we have only one. And so for me, that was groundbreaking. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's it, right? So, I had breakthroughs and epiphanies all along my way, along the career. Tony and I saw some cool and awesome stuff. Like we were in Tampa one time and there was a young man down there, high school student. He got hit by a drunk driver, lost both legs. Next thing I know, he's at a firewalk. He's there. I'm on Tony's lane. I'm shoveling, right? Tony looks at me like, oh my gosh, I think we're going to see something pretty amazing here in a minute. And he looks, right? And we're both looking, and here comes that kid in that in that wheelchair. I'm at my wheelbarrow. And all of a sudden, next, he moves himself. And without any help, he goes into a handstand and he walked across the fire in his hand. And Tony and I looked at each other and tears coming down our face. And, it's moments like that. And that's why that environment is so critical. And like when you and I were talking earlier, I'm like, yeah, immerse yourself in it, man, because you're going to see and be part of things that you're not going to see anywhere else in life, typically. Not. I don't think exactly at that level, you know what I mean, in that environment in 4 days. So, yeah, state management from Tony. Be aware of who you are and what you're doing right now, and focus on, all those kinds of things, and also help others. If you help enough people get what they want in life, we always get what we want in life. And then there's one last thing that I think is critical that Tony teaches that he brought to my attention years ago, and that was pay attention to your achievement. Okay, you can achieve at a high level, you can make lots of money, you can buy all the toys, you can have all the stuff. However, if it's not balanced with fulfillment, it's failure. Because in his environment, I met a lot of wealthy people, lots of actors and actresses and professional athletes and Olympians and rock and roll stars and MMA fighters, you name it, across the board, all the athletes out there. And here's the thing, from my perspective, you can achieve at a high level, but if you don't learn to balance fulfillment with it, you're going to get to the end of your life and go, that wasn't the way to do it. Right?
Thank you for listening. You will find the full conversation with Dave Albin in episode 310. The link is in the episode description. If you enjoy listening and appreciate what we're doing here, the quick, simple favor I'm asking of you is to click the subscribe button. Until next time, stand out, don't fit in,